Kody Brown demands total submission and absolute respect as the ultimate provider and protector of his sprawling plural family, styling himself as the unquestioned king of his reality television castle. But behind the carefully curated facade of sister wives lies a devastating contradiction that nearly cost a little girl her life. Picture the jarring visual reality that the cameras accidentally caught over the years. Kody flaunting luxury watches, flashing expensive David Yurman jewelry, and parading around Flagstaff in a lifestyle of sheer, unapologetic opulence. While just a few years earlier, his own daughter Truly lay in a hospital bed, fighting for her life in acute kidney failure. The unpaid medical bills stacked up into a mountain of catastrophic financial debt, a looming ruin threatening to crush Christine completely. Kody preaches the gospel of patriarchal protection and traditional family values, yet when the ultimate life-or-death test arrived on his watch, he was nowhere to be found, completely abandoning his financial responsibilities. This is the darkest unsolved mystery that network executives never wanted you to look at too closely. Did Kody Brown secretly refuse to pay a single dime toward Truly's life-saving medical care, deliberately leaving Christine to face total bankruptcy alone? Welcome back to Jenny Exposes. If you want the unapologetic truth behind the reality television empires that sell you lies, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because the financial cover-ups we are uncovering today will shatter everything you thought you knew about the Brown family. The irony of Kody Brown's self-proclaimed status as the ultimate family patriarch is as sickening as it is tragic, completely unraveling during the darkest days of Season 6. Kody constantly demanded that his wives bow to his authority because he supposedly carried the heavy, masculine burden of keeping the family safe and financially secure. Yet his terrifying negligence almost resulted in the unthinkable. While the wives traveled to San Francisco, leaving Kody in charge of the children, an agonizingly slow and preventable tragedy began to unfold. Little Truly became lethargic, her eyes rolling back, her body slowly shutting down as severe dehydration ravaged her tiny system. Yet Kody completely dismissed the warning signs, waving away the severity of her condition with the careless arrogance of a man who simply could not be bothered to parent his own offspring. By the time Christine returned home and rushed her rapidly deteriorating daughter to the emergency room, the devastating diagnosis was handed down: acute kidney failure. Truly was fighting for her life in the intensive care unit, hooked up to dialysis machines, surrounded by the terrifying beeps of medical monitors that signaled a child hovering on the absolute brink of death. And while Christine was consumed by the suffocating, paralyzing terror of potentially losing her daughter, another sinister shadow was creeping into the hospital room: the catastrophic, life-altering financial reality of the American healthcare system. The intensive care unit costs thousands upon thousands of dollars every single day, and the most horrifying secret of the Brown family was about to be exposed to the sterile hospital lights. Truly, the daughter of a famous reality television star appearing on a massively successful TLC network show, did not have basic health insurance. The illusion of Kody Brown as the great protector evaporated in an instant, leaving Christine to hold the trembling hand of her dying child while staring down the barrel of insurmountable, crushing medical debt. Years later, the financial dust has finally settled, and the true extent of Kody's insidious financial betrayal has been meticulously uncovered by eagle-eyed internet sleuths and show insiders who refuse to let the narrative die. The trap closed when viewers began to carefully connect the dots of the background imagery in recent seasons, creating a chilling contrast that exposes Kody's absolute moral bankruptcy. On one side of the screen, Kody is captured living a life of blatant luxury, draped in expensive David Yurman pendants, sporting high-end timepieces, driving heavily modified trucks, and surrounding himself with bizarrely expensive fine art and hoarding-level purchases packed inside Robin's sprawling million-dollar Flagstaff mansion. On the other side of the screen is Christine, a mother forced to desperately hustle in the grueling, humiliating trenches of multi-level marketing just to keep her head above water. While Kody was funneling the family's pooled TLC television money into real estate assets that bore only his and Robin's names, Christine was smiling into ring lights, selling leggings and pink energy drinks to fans online, using every ounce of her public platform not to build a portfolio of wealth, but to slowly, agonizingly chip away at the six-figure medical debt that Kody entirely washed his hands of. The sheer audacity of a father hoarding wealth and buying luxury goods while forcing the mother of his child to crowdsource her survival through sheer relentless labor is a level of financial abuse that leaves viewers absolutely speechless. This inescapable reality traps Kody in a brutal credibility dilemma, a psychological double bind from which he cannot ever extract himself without completely destroying his own carefully manufactured legacy. If Kody admits the truth that he, a nationally broadcast reality television star pulling down massive episodic paychecks, failed to secure basic, fundamental health insurance for his own minor children, he looks like an utter failure of a provider, an incompetent, negligent fool who completely abandoned the most basic duties of fatherhood. But the alternative truth is infinitely darker and much more terrifying. If Kody admits that the family's LLC bank accounts actually possess the capital to pay for Truly's hospital bills, but that he willfully chose to hoard those funds, diverting the money to subsidize Robyn's luxury lifestyle and Victoria's Secret debt, rather than saving Christine from financial ruin, he no longer looks like a mere failure. He looks like a calculated, malignant monster. There is no safe harbor for Kody in this scenario, no clever PR spin that can justify a father watching his child nearly perish in a hospital bed and then casually walking away from the billing department, leaving the mother to face the collection agencies completely alone. He is trapped in a permanent state of hypocrisy, a man who desperately craves the title of traditional patriarch while completely refusing to foot the bill that traditional patriarchy demands. Now, the stakes are escalating to a terrifying, legally binding climax, moving far beyond internet rumors and stepping directly into the unforgiving glare of a court of law. Christine's current, explosive lawsuit, demanding retroactive child support, is the ultimate reckoning that Kody has been dreading for years, because the brutal machinery of the justice system does not care about his televised temper tantrums or his distorted victim narratives. By dragging Kody into court for unpaid child support, Christine has opened the door to a forensic financial bloodbath, a ruthless discovery process where high-powered attorneys will subpoena years of bank records, tax returns, and LLC ledgers to legally account for exactly where every single dollar of that TLC reality television money actually went. The unpaid medical debt from Truly's kidney failure is no longer just a sad story from season 6. It is a live, highly volatile piece of legal ammunition. When the judge looks at the financial timeline, contrasting the dates of Christine's desperate multi-level marketing income against the dates of Kody and Robyn's luxury art acquisitions and real estate maneuvers, the veil will be ripped away completely. Kody will be forced, under penalty of perjury, to explain to a judge why he allowed his daughter's life-saving medical care to drive her mother to the brink of bankruptcy while he lived in a mansion surrounded by expensive baubles. The sheer terror of this financial exposure is the real reason Kody has been spiraling out of control, realizing that his darkest secret is about to be mathematically proven in a court of law, completely destroying whatever microscopic shred of public dignity he has left. The visual evidence is as undeniable as it is deeply grotesque, a concrete, cinematic contrast that perfectly encapsulates the absolute financial depravity of Kody Brown and the predatory economic structure he forced upon his wives. Imagine the sun-drenched, heavily wooded lots of Flagstaff, Arizona, where Kody and his legally favored wife, Robyn, are captured on camera gleefully unboxing and revving the engines of brand-new, top-of-the-line luxury all-terrain vehicles. These are not basic toys. These are high-performance machines that cost tens of thousands of dollars, purchased entirely for the recreational amusement of Robyn's children. The exhaust fills the crisp mountain air as they tear through the dirt, a roaring, gasoline-fueled monument to Kody's reckless, unchecked vanity spending. Now, violently cut that imagery against the suffocating, claustrophobic reality of Christine's life during that exact same era. Picture Christine sitting alone at her kitchen table in the dead of night, the harsh overhead light illuminating stacks of heavily stamped, past-due medical bills from the intensive care unit. While Kody was dropping small fortunes on off-road vehicles to play the part of the fun, affluent dad for Robin's household, Christine was tearfully looking into the reality television cameras, her voice cracking under the crushing, inescapable weight of Truly's lingering hospital debt. The sheer, breathtaking audacity of a father joyriding on a luxury ATV, while the mother of his child agonizes over how to pay the nephrologists who literally kept their daughter's kidneys from shutting down permanently, is a cinematic knockout blow that absolutely destroys the myth of Kody the provider. It is the ultimate visual proof of a two-tiered family system, where Robin's household operates as a fully funded luxury estate, and Christine's household is treated like an abandoned, destitute outpost, left to scavenge for its own survival. This horrifying disparity exposes the deepest, most insidious behavioral flaw in Kody Brown's psychology: his extreme, weaponized financial selfishness. Kody operates his plural marriage entirely on a system of convenient hypocrisy, a twisted economic philosophy designed solely to benefit himself while stripping his original wives of their security. When his wives are facing a catastrophic crisis, when Christine needs hundreds of thousands of dollars to save their daughter's life, or when Janelle needs housing stability, Kody instantly reclassifies them as independent financial contractors. Suddenly, it is their house, their bills, their biological children, and their sole responsibility to figure out how to survive. He completely emotionally and financially divorces himself from their hardship, stepping back with his hands raised, claiming poverty or logistical inability to help. But the very second Kody desires something for himself, whether it is purchasing the sprawling, undeveloped acreage of Coyote Pass, securing the down payment for Robin's million-dollar luxury mansion, or funding his hoarding of high-end art and jewelry, the narrative aggressively flips. Suddenly, the family is a collective. Suddenly, he demands total access to the equity in Christine's home, the savings in Janelle's bank accounts, and the direct deposits of Mary's multi-level marketing income. He treats his original wives as disposable, autonomous entities when they are bleeding, but violently demands they act as his personal, communal piggy banks the moment he wants to expand his real estate portfolio. It is a parasitic financial model masquerading as a religious family structure, a one-way street of economic extraction where Kody perpetually drains the resources of the women he promised to protect, leaving them entirely hollowed out and utterly alone the second the bill comes due for a life or death emergency. But perhaps the most nauseating aspect of this entire cover-up is the failed, deeply manipulative emotional appeal Kody attempted to broadcast to the world in a desperate bid to mask his financial abandonment. Go back and watch the hospital footage. Look closely at Kody's talking head interviews during the darkest hours of Truly's kidney failure. As his young daughter lay trapped in a web of dialysis tubes and heart monitors, Kody sat in the interview chair, violently running his hands through his hair, squeezing out performative theatrical tears, and remarkably, incredibly, making the entire near-death experience exclusively about himself. He looked directly into the camera lenses and wailed about how traumatizing Truly's illness was for him, how terrified he was, how the stress of the situation was completely breaking him down. He attempted to center himself as the ultimate victim of her medical crisis, demanding sympathy from the audience, while simultaneously attempting to hijack the emotional narrative away from the mother who actually saved the child's life. It is a masterclass in dark triad narcissism. Kody wanted the television audience to weep for his paternal suffering, to view him as a tragic, loving father enduring the unimaginable pain of a sick child, all while intentionally hiding the monstrous reality that off-camera, he was refusing to take any financial responsibility for the very machines keeping her heart beating. His tears cost him absolutely nothing, but the dialysis cost thousands, and Kody was only willing to provide the former. The audience, however, is not blind, and the inauthenticity of his performance radiates through the screen like toxic waste. Viewers instinctively felt the hollow, self-serving nature of his crying, recognizing it not as the genuine grief of a terrified parent, but as the calculated defensive posturing of a man desperately trying to manufacture a sympathetic storyline to cover up his gross, unforgivable negligence. His emotional appeal failed spectacularly because the receipts tell the true story, proving that while Kody was crying for the cameras, He was simultaneously leaving Christine to walk through the fires of financial hell entirely alone. This monumental, crushing hypocrisy forms the rotting core of Kody Brown's entire public identity, completely dismantling the central thesis of the Sister Wives empire he spent over a decade building. For years, he stood at the pulpit of reality television, aggressively preaching the divine sanctity of the plural family, looking directly into the camera to sell millions of viewers on the righteous, elevated morality of his religious lifestyle. He demanded that we view his sprawling, complicated household as a superior social structure, a unified, unbreakable safety net where the collective strength of one man and four women could weather any storm, overcome any obstacle, and provide a utopia of constant support for their dozens of children. Yet the absolute second a true, terrifying, life-or-death crisis hit the family, the moment the illusion was tested by the brutal reality of failing kidneys and mounting hospital bills, Kody's grand religious philosophy shattered into a million jagged pieces. The dark truth is that his version of plural marriage was never a safety net. It was a financial guillotine, carefully rigged to protect his neck while leaving his wives on the chopping block. He used the rhetoric of faith and family unity strictly as a mechanism for control, demanding absolute loyalty and financial tribute from his wives, but instantly abandoning them to the wolves of medical debt when they required his protection the most. He is a man who loves the aesthetics of leadership, but violently rejects the agonizing sacrifices that true leadership demands, exposing his entire patriarchal worldview as nothing more than a shallow, predatory grift designed to subsidize his own vanity, while his children are left physically and financially vulnerable. The audience, however, operates as the ultimate unforgiving jury, and their verdict has been utterly merciless, dragging Kody into a chilling state of total, inescapable isolation. Reality television fans are accustomed to drama, infidelity, and screaming matches, but the sheer, visceral horror of medical neglect crosses a sacred, universal boundary that cannot ever be uncrossed or spun by clever public relations teams. The digital blowback has been catastrophic, an absolute evisceration of his character across every corner of the internet, transforming him from a quirky, polarizing television patriarch into a universally despised pariah. Even the most hardened, contrarian Kody apologists, the microscopic fraction of viewers who historically defended his tantrums or justified his blatant favoritism toward Robin, have completely vanished into the shadows, utterly incapable of defending a father who hoards Rolex watches and luxury art while his daughter's life-saving medical bills are outsourced to her desperate mother. He has been left entirely exposed to the blistering heat of public hatred, stripped of every defensive shield he once relied upon. Picture Kody pacing the aggressively decorated, cluttered halls of Robin's Flagstaff mansion, obsessively scrolling through his phone, watching the comment sections and social media forums tear his legacy to shreds, realizing with mounting panic that there is no redemption arc left for him to play. The echo chamber of his own delusion has collapsed, leaving him completely isolated on his heavily mortgaged, dirt pile kingdom of Coyote Pass, staring out at the barren trees, while the world collectively recognizes him not as a leader, but as a cowardly, negligent liability. But the ultimate humiliation for Kody Brown, the absolute point of no return that severed his psychological and economic spine, was not the public hatred or the loss of his television facade, but the quiet, undeniable triumph of Christine's total financial liberation. Imagine the cinematic climax of this dark saga. Christine sitting alone at her desk, bathed in the soft morning light of her new, peaceful life in Utah, staring at the final, lingering balance of Truly's catastrophic hospital debt on her computer screen. She does not call Kody to beg for his help. She does not ask for permission. She simply types in her own bank routing number, money earned through her own blood, sweat, and relentless hustle, completely independent of his control, and clicks submit, permanently zeroing out the crushing burden that he intentionally left to destroy her. In that single, silent moment, the heavy, rusted chains of Kody's financial abuse dropped to the floor. By paying off the absolute last cent of that monumental medical debt entirely by herself, Christine executed the ultimate act of defiance, severing the very last thread of leverage Kody held over her survival. It is a devastating, emasculating realization for a man whose entire identity is built on the false premise that his wives are helpless without him. Christine proved, with undeniable mathematical certainty, that she never actually needed him at all. She survived the terrifying near death of her child. She survived the crippling avalanche of medical debt. And she survived the psychological warfare of a narcissist who wanted her to fail, emerging from the ashes entirely unbroken, vastly wealthier, and fundamentally free. Kody is left to choke on the bitter reality that the woman he tried to financially drown not only swam to shore, but built an entirely new empire out of his failure, leaving him completely in the dust to face the wreckage of the family he destroyed. Thank you for diving into the darkest corners of reality television with me today. If you are outraged by the hidden financial abuse and calculated manipulations that the networks refuse to show you, do not let these stories be buried. Hit that like button to push the truth into the algorithm. Leave a comment below telling me exactly what you think of Kody's catastrophic financial cover-up. And make sure you are subscribed to Jenny Exposes with the notification bell turned on. We are stripping away the illusions, exposing the monsters hiding behind the cameras, and we are just getting started. I will see you in the next investigation.